Good afternoon, and welcome to the City Club of Cleveland, where we're devoted to conversations of consequence that help democracy thrive. Today is Friday, August 4th. I'm Dan Moulthrop, CEO of the City Club, and we are live outdoors in the U.S. Bank Plaza at Playhouse Square. This today is the first forum in our four-part series of free Friday forums this August, ahead of our move to Playhouse Square, to our new Playhouse Square headquarters in September. If you would like to learn more about that move, we are delighted to share it with you. You can find out more at cityclub.org. But in the meantime, if you've ever wanted to come to a Friday forum for free, these next 3 Fridays and today are your opportunity to do so. Today, we're talking about theater, specifically the BorderLight Festival, which began last night. Back in 2015, Dale Heinen and Jeff Pence sought to create something that didn't exist. They saw a need for an international theater festival. They founded BorderLight, a nonprofit with a mission to present innovative theater that inspires, builds cross-cultural understanding, and celebrates the diversity of human experience. And on the way to that mission, BorderLight also seeks to make theater accessible while giving exposure to emerging artists of every background. And full disclosure, I'm basically a human conflict of interest. I serve on the BorderLight board. I was the board president, and so I'm not a disinterested moderator today at all. So the festival began as an international theater festival, and this year marks BorderLight's first fringe-only festival. The idea of a fringe festival goes back to Scotland, 1948, where theatrical works were presented off of the main stage on small stages on the fringes of the main theater festival in Edinburgh. Today, fringe festivals are launchpads for emerging work and the independent artists who create that work. And this year's festival showcases more than 130 performances from 37 unique local and national acts. And today, we will learn a little bit more about some of them. Playhouse Square is a fitting location for us, not only for the BorderLight Festival, but because it's also, of course, our new home for the City Club. Joining me on stage are, if you're watching on our live stream here, it'll be to my left, to your right. First, we have Robin Van Leer. She is the playwright and performer of Welcome to My House, but you may also know Robin from some of her other hits, including Parade the Circle. Please give her a round of applause. Next to her is Holly Holsinger. She's chair of theater and dance department at Cleveland State University. She's going to tell us a little bit more about her piece in a little bit. Yes, indeed. Thank you. Lucretia Stenson is with us as well. She's an aerialist performing in Fairy in the Lake. And PJ O'Neill. He's playwright and performer of Code Red, a drag manifesto. If you are joining us on the live stream or over the air on WKSU, you can text your questions to 330-541-5794. The number again is 330-541-5794. And we'll work them into the second half of the program. Members and friends of the City Club of Cleveland, please join me in welcoming this wonderful panel: Holly Holsinger, PJ O'Neill, Lucretia Stenson, and Robin Van Leer. So all of you performed last night, I believe. Is that right? Yes. Excellent. PJ, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit about Code Red.
Okay. Code Red is a show within a show. So it's a show about a drag queen putting on a one-woman show about how her life's journey is similar to a short story written by Willa Cather. So it's like personal, and then there's cabaret elements in it, so there's live singing in it. But yeah, that's pretty much what Code Red is.
We're going to go through everybody real quick, and then there's a lot I want to come back to on each of you. Lucretia, could you tell us a little bit about Fairy in the Lake and your work as an aerialist in that performance?
Sure. So I am doing a short opera performed by me, but written by Obadiah Jones Darrell. And The Fairy in the Lake is a story about a slave boy who once saw a fairy in the lake. He grew up, nobody kind of believed him. Somebody tried to punish him for it. We take you through that journey. He grows up and discovers that the fairy was real, and the fairy was actually the goddess Oshun. And I get to display that in my aerial arts for you guys.
While you sing.
While Liz Huff sings.
Okay. I was going to say. And Holly Holsinger, your piece focuses on the life of Marie Curie.
Correct. So my performance is Marie Curie meets Radium Girl in the afterlife, and what they have to say to each other.
Explain Radium Girl.
So the Radium Girls in the 1920s in New Jersey and Illinois, they worked to paint watch dial numbers with radioactive paint, and they would put the paintbrush in their mouths in order to get a fine tip point, and that radium paint did terrible things to them, and they died horrible deaths. Of course, there's a corporate greed perspective to the Radium Girls story, where they told them it was good for them, and they hid the fact of what was making them ill. That's in a nutshell.
That's a horrifying nutshell, but thank you for explaining.
Hence the Marie Curie horror story.
And Robin Van Leer, you have brought a really large prop with you, and if you, for our audience on the radio as well, I should note too that you're wearing what appears to be a bird skull, a large bird skull on your head.
And it's got lights on it too.
Yeah, lights as well.
Okay.
Talk about your piece.
Okay, so my piece is Welcome to My House. And I years ago, I made a series of 5 houses high in the air on wheels. And my dream was always to be able to roll the house along and stop and interact with people and tell them stories based on the props that the house was carrying or that I was carrying. And it was meant to be an exchange. And that's what this is. It's an exchange with people that come and are brave enough to be part of the interaction. I have favors. So if you come, you get a favor. And if you get a favor, you can ask me a question. What's to lose?
And so if you were to, you have a performance, last night you were in character.
Yes.
And you're not in character now, as far as I can tell.
Well, no.
No.
Right.
And you are, the character, is it the same character every time?
No, it's different. No, and nobody except the people here will know what this character was. So see, I really am a little bit in character.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
Okay. So you are somewhat in
Yeah.
character.
Last night I was the Italian doctor character from Venetian Carnival. This afternoon I'm going to be sort of a saltimbanque, or this evening at 7. Yeah.
Why?
It just makes it more interesting to me. If I'm the same character every time, then I'm bringing the same point of view to the interaction, to the engagement. And if I'm carrying my house around, I want to bring a new me each time I go.
Robin, you are sort of a polymath when it comes to the arts.
Yeah.
A sculptor, an actor, a writer as well, an improvisational artist, and an inspirer of so many others in your work at Parade the Circle. What does it mean to you to be doing this work, this particular piece at BorderLight this weekend?
It's scary as hell. Can
Why?
I say that on the air?
Yeah.
Because I've actually never done a one-person show before. That's
Really?
just been me. That's just been me interacting. I've always surrounded myself with other people and people to help me tell my tale. And this time it's just me. And I've been very nervous about it ever since whenever they said, yes, come. And I've been thinking about it ever since they said, come. And it's been growing for months. And it's very exciting.
Last night I was the opening night of the festival. I saw a couple of pieces, and one of the things that I saw was the stand-up comedy that's happening at the Hermit Club, sort of at the the north end of
Right.
Playhouse Square. I'm not supposed to say the back of Playhouse Square. No. But it sort of does feel backstage over there, the north end of Playhouse Square. I got the sense that a lot of those performers do it because it scares them. And I wonder how true that is for all of you. I mean, Robin, you just said it. PJ, I have to feel certain that performing in drag in a show that you've written yourself in Ohio in 2023 brings some fear.
Yes. And the show was intentional. A lot of my work is political. In hindsight, I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, born and raised, but yes. But I now live in New York, so I have a different perspective on life. So it's interesting that, like, coming from a place that's so diverse and liberal, coming back home, and then, witnessing a lot of changes and a lot of, laws trying to be passed. I love that this is happening now, because it's basically sort of a protest to, the things that are happening that I just don't agree with.
Lucretia Stenson, in Fairy in the Lake, you perform from I'm not really sure what you call what I'm looking at right now, an aerial setup. What is it? What is it called?
It's an aerial rig, and
I
perform on the apparatus called an aerial hammock.
And to me, that looks scary, but I don't think it is to you.
No, I've gotten used to it. It's a little scary with the initial fear of, okay, I'm performing this piece in front of people versus the safety of the studio where I get to practice and everybody's doing this crazy stuff. But it's more of a freeing feeling once I get started, because in all honesty, and I do appreciate everyone here, but I can't see you when I'm spinning up there. And that's what makes it so good. Like, I'm terrified of what you guys may think. However, I can't even see you. And you think what I'm doing is beautiful. And that makes me happy.
I want to mention right now for our listening audience that you're with the City Club of Cleveland. We're live at Playhouse Square right now. We're talking with artists who are performing at BorderLight, the Fringe Theater Festival this year. Many years it's been an international theater festival. This is the first fringe-only festival. Next year will be an international and fringe. You can find out more at borderlightcle.org. And there are tickets available for all sorts of things that you never knew you needed in your life. Holly Holsinger, you and I the other day, as we were thinking about the conversation we're going to have today, talked a little bit about the importance of a festival like this providing a platform and an inspiration to you and others. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. Well, I'll start with last year. Being down here in Playhouse Square with so many great artists and getting to witness their work and feeling the community was super great. And so when I had the opportunity to partner with BorderLight and CSU, it just seemed like a great opportunity. It was also an opportunity for me to bring back a piece that I'd been working on pre-pandemic. And I'm assuming for most of us, especially most of us who are performers, things kind of stopped for us. And it was hard to get going again. So I'd been working on this piece. And so it just gave me a really great reason to do it. And involve students and alums in the process. So I'm really grateful for that. And I'm feeling all that great energy down here again, all around me. So
Holly, how does it feel for your students, for the Cleveland State University students in the Department of Theater to be involved?
They're having such a great time. And I think last night they were just kind of stunned. They've never experienced anything like this. They're usually off in the summer, so they had a good excuse to come down here. and do what they love to do. So for them to get to meet so many great artists and see so many really unique performances is so rich for them. So they're super grateful.
Holly, I'd like to just dig in a little bit on your piece about the horror show. Can you just unpack it a little bit and help us understand kind of the origins of this story and what you're trying to communicate?
Sure. I've been a fan of Marie Curie for a long time. As a young woman, I read a lot about her, and I think as women, we're always looking for those people who broke through barriers, and she was definitely one of those people. My favorite book is her biography by her daughter, Eve Curie. I recommend that. But when I came across the story of the Radium Girls, I realized that Marie Curie's life actually overlapped with the horrors that were happening with this radium paint. She also died of radium poisoning and never would acknowledge the dangers of radium. And I could never find anything that said that she knew anything that was happening about the Radium Girls in the United States. So I realized when she died that the Radium Girls were also still dying, and that it was very possible that they would find themselves in some kind of in-between place in the afterlife. That's what started my inquiry.
And where does it go?
Well, you know, it's a story really about two women who just want to be acknowledged and just want to live their lives and have the right to do so. So they keep asking, do you know who I am? And that's sometimes a question I ask myself. And you brought up, Dan, about the Barbie movie and the Oppenheimer movie. And this is kind of where Barbie and Oppenheimer meet, in that there's dangers and her creation is a kind of monster, actually. But at the same time, there are the voices of these women who are just striving to have agency over their lives and to do their work and follow their dreams and their passions and the things that interrupted them. And I haven't seen Barbie yet, but I think about America Ferrera's monologue that now is like all over social media about how hard it is to be a woman. And it just strikes me that, oh, wow, it's still hard to be a woman. 1900s, it was hard. 2000s, it's still hard.
Right. Again, if you're just joining us on the radio, you're with the City Club of Cleveland. We're live at Playhouse Square at US Bank Plaza. We're hearing from Holly Holsinger, whose piece about Marie Curie and the Radium Girls is going to be performed. There's a bit of wind here right now, by the way, so I apologize for that if you're hearing that. And I want to mention too that that Holly's pieces you can see tonight at 5 p.m. in the Mid-O building around the corner here, Playhouse Square. PJ's piece, Code Red, is 9:15 tonight at the Kennedy Theater. Robin Van Leer's piece, Welcome to My House, is tonight at 7 p.m. here on US Bank Plaza. She's the one pushing a house around the plaza. And Lucretia's piece, Fairy in the Lake, is 5:30 tonight here at US Bank Plaza as well. This is sort of a philosophical question, Robin, that you and I were talking about a little bit earlier. But what is art? Like, what is this? This, like, you know, this impulse to put a bird skull on your head, to inhabit a character from the Venetian Carnival, to push a metal frame, suggestion of a house around the plaza. What is this? What is art?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think what is art can be answered two ways. There's a Sanskrit word called rasa, and rasa is the energy that goes from a work of art to the person viewing it, and vice versa from the person viewing a work of art to the work of art. And I think that art is like that. It goes both ways. It's like, if I think it's art, well, yeah, it's art. But it's also art if somebody else thinks it's art. And they don't have to match. I mean, hopefully when you make art, you find somebody that also thinks it's art. But my favorite art really of all time is the art that you see when you don't expect to see art. And when it just like happens, and it could be intentional on the part of what you're seeing, but maybe it's not intentional. I mean, on the tennis court 2 days ago, I found a single cicada wing, and then my daughter found the other one. And I've got them now stuck into my phone case because they're incredible. If you've ever held a cicada wing, it's so strong. It's amazing. It feels like metal. And it was just seeing it there, like this perfect wing. That was like a moment of incredible art, and the rasa was going back and forth. But you know, everybody finds art different places, and it can be that you find art most in a gallery, or it could be listening to a song, or watching a sunset. I mean, art is like a bird or like a memory. You don't want to trap it with a specific meaning. Particular meaning. You want to let it be free, and you want to let it have, like, if you go to see all 4 of our shows, I guarantee they're going to be completely different. But that rasa can happen every time, and you don't want to say, oh, that's my kind of art, because as soon as you say that's my kind of art, then you cut yourself off from all those other opportunities. So yeah, okay, there's my answer.
That's great. That's great.
Good answer.
In the last few years, my teenage children have argued with me about what art is and why whatever it is that we've seen in a museum isn't really art, and so I'm gonna play that for them. Thank you very much for making the case. Lucretia, you were nodding quite a lot while Robin was talking.
Yeah, I was nodding in a lot of agreements there, because at one point in time I was like, art is what you see at the art museum. That is art. Whatever is painted, that's art. What expanded my mindset to art was Basquiat himself, just seeing like, oh, he painted on doors. It wasn't just a canvas, it was more to it. And that kind of was like, okay, I can expand a little more. And then I started getting curious, joined the circus later in life, joined Cricket River Circus when I turned 29. And I never thought that you can blend circus with art until now, but I wouldn't have been able to even accept that possibility without being open and accepting to every possibility of art and saying, okay, at least try it once to see it, versus giving way to doubt, like, oh, I can't do that, or I could never do that, because that's not a good way of thinking, because more than likely, if you tell yourself that, then it's true. So gave myself a shot, and I've been swinging since 29.
I want to pause for a moment and to appreciate the fact that at age 29 you ran away and joined the circus.
Yes.
What
it
were
was
you
the
doing
best
before
choice
that?
of my life. Before that, I was just a nerd. And the best way to say, I worked in the technology field, still work in technology, but I had just lost like a lot of weight. And I was getting bored. I really hate cardio, the standard going to the gym. It just bothers me. Like, there's nothing fun there. You know what I mean? It's not fun to lift 100 pounds or anything like that. That's just not fun to me. So I said, I have to find a fun way to keep this weight off, because I'm not going to get fat again. So I found the circus. I actually started training at B Studios, then worked my way up to Sky Aerial, where now I teach beginners classes, and then joined the circus, did a winter play with Holly, actually, How the Circus Stole Christmas with Cricket River Circus. And that's how I met Obadiah, who wrote The Fairy in the Lake, and here we are.
Wow. That's a great story. And for our listeners as well, and those on the live stream, I want to point out that there's another circus at the festival called Whiz Bang, and I wouldn't exactly call it a big top, sort of a little top, but it's a big performance. And you can find out more about that as well at borderlightcle.org. PJ, can you talk about the art of drag a little bit? I think that particularly in a place like Ohio, and particularly on a stage like this one with the City Club, where we're committed to freedom of expression, we should highlight just what drag is and why it matters and why it's actually protected speech.
Absolutely. Drag, first of all, drag is nothing new. Drag has been done since the beginning of theater. If you go back to Greek theater, actually the word drag derives from that. So it's like literally drag is dress resembling a girl. And that's because women were not allowed to perform in theater back then. Men were the only ones, so they would dress up men to play the women parts. So drag has been something, it's nothing new. So it's crazy when you see stuff in the news about like up in arms. I'm like, it's nothing new. But I think everyone, I hate to say this, but like everyone knows who RuPaul is, right? RuPaul's Drag Race is a huge phenomenon, extremely successful. But one thing RuPaul says is that we're all born naked and the rest is drag. And I think that's very true. We all put on some form of armor or anything to get through your day. The outfit you put on, the makeup you put on, the shoes you put on, how you present yourself in a professional field, outside the professional field, it's all drag. Yes, mine is more extreme. But I think drag is something that's so therapeutic for a lot of us, especially as a queer person. And drag has always been in our entertainment sphere, and it's not going anywhere. So buckle up, because we're not going down with a fight.
Could you say a little more about the therapeutic nature of drag performance?
Yeah, so actually my show is a lot about that. It's a storytelling show about how drag was sort of like a therapy for the character that I'm playing. Some people have an idea of who they are, but they're forced into a box. It could be anything. It could be because of society pressures, your parents, anything. But drag allows you to take what you wish you could do, but on a more elevated and extreme level. I think everyone has some form of persona inside of them that's not out. And drag allows that. Now, I will say drag is it's hard work. The reason why I'm not in drag today, because drag and heat does not mix. I will be melting up here. It's uncomfortable. But it's great. It's great. I think everyone should try some form of it at one point of their life.
How much of a transformation will I see when I come see Code Red?
Well, it takes me about an hour and a half to get ready. I would say I wear 6-inch heels. I'm wearing a corset. I'm wearing a wig. I'm wearing like 20 pounds of makeup. You won't see this in Code Red.
The character in Code Red, is that a character or a persona that you perform regularly, and this is a new role for her in Code Red, or is she a completely different persona or a different character?
She's a completely different character. I also do drag outside the show in New York, but this character is completely different. I did take my life in drag in New York to help write this show, because I knew firsthand how drag worked, especially in the club scene, in the bar scene. And that's what the setting of the show is. It's like I'm in a bar performing in front of a crowd. So I took that life reference to make the show, but it's a completely different character, more witty than I will ever be in a club. I'm not lip syncing, which most people think drag is. It's just lip sync. I'm actually singing live. You don't really see that often in drag shows. So yeah, completely different.
Outstanding. I think I'm supposed to reply, yes, queen, but
Sure.
Sure. Okay, great. This is a safe space. Okay. Well, we are going to move to the audience Q&A right now, and I will remind you that you just heard from drag performer PJ O'Neill, whose show Code Red you can see tonight 9:15 at Kennedy's Theater at Playhouse Square. Lucretia Stenson is performing as part of Fairy in the Lake, which is happening at 5:30 this evening, or this afternoon rather, here on US Bank Plaza at Playhouse Square. And Holly Holsinger's piece, which I should have written down the whole piece, it's the Marie Curie horror story.
Horror story.
I was close.
So close.
Is this afternoon, 5 p.m. in the Mid-O building. Robin Van Leer performing at 7 p.m. here on the plaza as well. Welcome to my house. If you're thinking these are all happening at almost the same time, I can't see all of them. That is, in fact, the point of a festival like this, that you will not get to see everything, and but you will be amazed by everything that you see. As I said, we're going to start the audience Q&A. I'm Dan Moulthrop with the City Club, and we welcome questions from everyone, City Club members, guests, students, those of you joining us via our live stream at cityclub.org or our live radio broadcast on 89.7 WKSU, Ideastream Public Media. If you want to text your question, you can text it to 330-541-5794. The number again is 330-541-5794. And I'll just take this opportunity to mention once more that if you want more information about BorderLight, the Fringe Festival, the 2023 Fringe Theater Festival, you can find more information at borderlightcle.org. We have our first question. Go ahead, sir.
I want to follow up on the most recent discussion on the political legal environment. Right now, there is a bill that's been co-sponsored by 2/3 of the Republicans in the Ohio House, House Bill 245, that would make any performance by a person in an outfit other than the gender they were born in, whatever that means, other than in a sex cabaret, illegal. It could be a felony. It would apply not only to a Code Red production, but Robin, when you were a Venetian doctor, it would apply to you. And Ken, it would make you a felon because you're on a board that's supporting this sort of performance. I'm wondering, how is this going to affect you as performers and as management of production companies deciding what you're going to allow to perform, what characters you're going to perform, how you're going to live within this sort of law?
We're going to break the law. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Are you kidding? I don't think you were kidding.
No comment.
Holly Holsinger, who, and you can put on your CSU professor of theater hat if you'd like.
Sure. I'm also going to bring up SB 83, which is actually no longer being considered at this time. This is the way rights are being taken away of our citizens. And first off, please vote on issue 1. Vote no, because it's really taking away our voices. And as a professor who is in danger of losing the rights to teach what I want to teach and do the work that I want to do under the university's umbrella, it's terrifying. And I think I can no longer be a professor under those circumstances and be told that I can't include anything about racism in my curriculum. So it's a scary time for sure. So I know as a theater artist, we're always going to find a place. We'll just do it in that corner or we'll find some wings. So it won't stop us, but it will make things way more complicated. Absolutely.
PJ O'Neill.
I was going to say the same thing. I was like, oh, we'll make it happen. You know, George C. Wolfe, a great playwright, said that as an artist, you always perform your art, even when no one's paying attention or when there's anything trying to be against it. It is scary right now. I'm extremely lucky and, you know, very lucky, like I said, to be in New York where, you know, things are a little bit more liberal, but, you know, I'm from here. So to see this happening, it just makes me very upset. And I don't think it's gonna pass because one thing about queer people, and especially artists, we are not diplomatic. We will raise hell when we need to. And I feel like that's what we're gonna have to do.
Robin, did you have anything to add to that?
I just noticed that there was a clause there that you could perform if it was in a sex cabaret.
Right.
So I think I could make a little sign that said sex cabaret.
just roll it around.
Just roll it around.
Yeah. And I'll simply say, from my point of view, as an individual volunteer board member at BorderLight, and also as the executive of an organization that's devoted to celebrating freedom of speech, I actually find it very hard to imagine a future in which a law like that is passed and then actually manages testing in the courts, because this is a form of free speech, and in as much as paying for offering campaign contributions is a form of protected speech, I have to imagine that my right to wear a dress if I so chose, or PJ's right to do so, or your right to wear a suit, a man's suit, is protected. It has to be. So anyway, that's my point of view. Another question.
Thank you for being here today. Poor William Shakespeare, we would never know about him if we didn't have men performing as women all those years ago. My question has to do from the legal standpoint, since obviously this is going to end up in the courts and lawsuits. Is there any fund that's been set up to collect monies so that when it does get to the courts, you've got kind of a leg up to help protect you? Thank you.
I believe the ACLU is one of the biggest organizations that is fighting this. Also, the Human Rights Campaign. There are also local organizations, queer organizations that are raising money to help fight this, to get people to the courthouses, to the state houses. The ACLU is a huge one.
Excellent. Do we have another question?
The next question we have was texted in. What is the difference between performance art and theater?
Yes, Robin, go ahead.
I'm going to answer that just because when I went to graduate school at UC Santa Barbara, I think I was the first person to graduate with an MFA in this country in performance art.
Really?
So that shows you how old I am. But my professor who I worked with, who was Graham Dunn from England, was there as a visiting professor, and we started up that program at UC Santa Barbara, and we started it in conjunction with the visual arts department and the theater department. But what was purported, and I believe most performance artists will probably agree with this, is performance art, or at least this is where we started. Performance art is art performed in a theatrical manner or setting done from the point of view of a visual artist. So it started with the visual artists moving into performance. And that fact was what gave the name performance art. And so now I'm not going to say that that performance art is always done by a visual artist or from that point of view, but that's where it started from. And that's why the term was coined in a 1950s or 60s. Caprow, Alan Caprow, was one of the first people that was using that term.
Holly Holsinger, we need a professor here.
Well, I would just say that the line between performance art and what is theater is getting really muddy. And I think performance is best when the lines are muddy, when all possibilities are on the table. And I like to create that way myself.
That's his art.
Yeah, exactly.
I think the muddiness of lines and the feeling that you don't have to conform to a specific way. I mean, I consider myself a performance artist, but also a sculptor and a designer. But when I perform, I don't think, oh, how am I approaching this as from a visual artist point of view? I just have things I want to do. And I think that aspect is probably the same for all of us. So
I think the question also, though, I mean, for a lot of folks may not even understand that there was this sort of genre of performance art in the 70s and 80s that really
And 60s.
and the 60s that really stood out as very, very different from theater that people understood. When you received your MFA, the first MFA in the country in performance art, allegedly.
Allegedly.
That's a great story. We're going to go with it. But what were you doing? What was the art you were performing?
I was creating really large works outside in the environment that used people that were artists and people that were performers and people that weren't neither artists or performers. And I don't know, my favorite one had everybody who arrived at the piece got separated from the people that they came with. And it was like a loop, and you could go one way or you could go the other, and you ended up at two different seating areas for the same stage, which was in the middle of a lake. And you didn't know what the whole performance was about until you went home and talked to the person you'd come with who didn't see it, the same performance you saw. So that to me was like the way I was sort of tweaking the experience of going to a performance.
And what happened on the stage in the middle of the lake?
Oh, the middle of the lake was kind of a kabuki piece that was, again, there's drag and stuff going on. That was people in canoes and people on this floating raft. And the whole piece was called Duck Blinds and Tea Ceremonies. And it was my graduate thesis.
It sounds wild.
It was pretty wild.
Yeah.
And my father-in-law set fire to a field nearby by shooting a shotgun not high enough in the air, and it set the field on fire. So. And
that was part of the art.
Well, we didn't expect it, but it made me very close to the fire department.
I'd also like to add just a little bit,
Yes.
sorry, that, a lot of performance art you probably can attest to is it's very immersive. And theater is taking notes, because if you think about a lot of the new productions happening, it's becoming extremely immersive. And I think they're realizing that this art form of performance art is becoming not only marketable and a money-making machine, but also it's creating an experience, not just seeing, a stage and people performing on it. And I think that a lot of theater can learn from performance artists as well.
Excellent. Our next question, please.
It's great that we have the Fringe Festival here in Cleveland. And Dan, maybe you're the best one to answer this question.
Oh, dear, I hope not.
How are the artists selected or attracted to our Fringe Festival?
I am so glad you asked that question, Jan. And I'm going to invite Josie Jones, who is in charge of the Fringe Festival, to step up to the microphone to answer that question. I'm really glad. Please give Josie a round of applause. She's worked very, very hard on this festival.
Hi, I was hoping not to talk at all. Hi, again, my name is Josie Jones. I am the associate producer for the BorderLight Theater Festival here in Cleveland. If you are interested in being a part of the festival, the application for the festival opens nationally in the fall. I don't have an official date yet, so anyone can apply. And we read through all of those applications with a panel of individuals who are a part of the Cleveland infrastructure to pick what comes to the festival. And then we pair them with the amount of spaces that we have for that year's festival, and according to like their technical needs, and then they become a part of the festival.
Josie, while you're at the microphone, I'm going to ask you a couple of other quick questions.
Of course.
How many performers, how many different stages, how many different performances?
So this year's BorderLight Festival has over 130 performances, over 6 venues, 15 stages, excuse me. There are over 180 artists here from all of the individual shows. That's the tech teams, that's the artist directors, etc.
And they're from all over the United States.
All over. We got some people from West Virginia here, Chicago, everywhere.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Josie Jones, curator of the Fringe Festival. Next question.
So we have another text question. What was the first theater performance you saw? What impact did it have? And how can we help more kids fall in love with theater?
Who wants to take it?
My grandmother took me to see Gypsy in Portland, Oregon, when I was 12 years old. I love to dress up and act out stories, and that was my first experience that actually acknowledged that, wow, this is a real thing. I could actually do this. I didn't know that you can't really make money at it, but I could have a career.
The first one I saw, my mom took me to a production of The Nutcracker by at the Boston Children's Museum. And it was an awesome production because everybody had big paper mache heads. And there were lots of mice and they were running around and sometimes those big heads would fall off. And it was very exciting. And so here I am.
In a paper mache head.
In a paper mache head.
Lucretia?
Well, my first introduction to theater was on a field trip to see Charlotte's Web. And that brought it to life for me as a kid because, of course, we read the books in class and it just seemed really boring. But even if I loved the storyline, it seemed stale. But to see it brought to life in theater form was like, oh, this is really nice. I enjoyed that. And then growing up and then actually performing in theater, it was like, oh, so everybody is not just acting this out. They're having fun, too. And as a kid, pretty much a grown kid now, that was just really exciting. So I just say just keep introducing children to more familiar things. Like if they like something and they say, hey, I want to go see it, take them. You never know where that can go.
PJ?
I'll say the first production was West Side Story, and I fell in love. And I was like, look at Anita performing America. That's what I want to do. But I would say like the first like straight play was Angels in America, and that changed my life completely.
Tony Kushner's work.
Mind blowing.
What was it about that?
Well, it was the first production that had queer characters as the main characters. And one of the characters, and specifically Belize, which was this queer Black character, which you may think is like just a supporting role, but literally as the play goes on, he's like the moral compass. And I was like, oh, I see myself in Belize. And I feel like when you see yourself in a production on stage, that's when you connect. And that's when things change for you.
And that's why it's really so important that we tell everybody's story. And there was a question about how do we support you all? It's the small arts organizations that are supporting people like us, and experimental work are going into schools. Know that there's a lot of censorship in what high schools can perform right now. It's really shocking. So it's places like Cleveland Public Theater, whose STEP program will perform today, I believe, also in the Mid-Out building, and others that are actually going out and reaching young people, support arts programming in schools. I can't tell you how many of my students are just theater geek kids who couldn't do what they love for like 2 years, and they arrive at CSU and they are hungry and excited. So that's what you can do.
And because I've also seen a lot of theater, the first one was 42nd Street. But I would say if you wanted to introduce a young person to the theater and inspire them, probably one of the most amazing things you can take them to see are the Dazzle Awards here at Playhouse Square, which are the award. It's like the Tonys for high school productions, and the quality of the performers and the performances that they put on are just so inspiring. And so I'll just add that. Do we have one more question?
Our next question is also a text question. With computers and machine automation and AI, are humans becoming less creative?
Oh dear. Lucretia, leaning into the microphone.
I would say humans are being, unfortunately, lazy. I will say that it doesn't make them less creative. I would say that makes them lean into their creativity using AI. They're probably not using the best security practices, since it's an open source AI. We can't just dump all our ideas into it, because then your ideas are gone. They're no longer yours. So try not to be creative through AI that much. However, I do feel as though it expands your creativity, because maybe what you couldn't put into words, now you can say it into AI and it can make you an array of things that you never thought you can do. And now you have the steps to actually achieve that. So I don't want to say completely like tech is taking away from theater or any creativity. If anything, it helps. You just have to use it responsibly.
Other thoughts on that?
I was just going to say, I also work in higher education, not at the level as you, but I do teach first-year college students on writing. It was scary because for a lot of the times I didn't know the it was hard to tell if it was their writing or was it AI generated. And that was a learning curve for me. But I also feel like I agree with you. I think people are so afraid of writing. And you don't even have to be a professional writer. I think people are so afraid of writing because, like, you know, growing up in school, writing was always this daunting thing, right? But I think creative writing needs to be taught more, because I think creative writing is a great outlet for people to realize that writing is not as scary as you think it is. But it is scary, especially in a higher education setting, and also journalism. I also write for food media. So we literally had meetings about how we, as writers, you have to put as much personal anecdotes in the stories to make it different from AI generated articles. So it's scary.
It's a lot of gigs you're cobbling together over there, PJ.
It's because you need to make money in New York. So you take as many jobs as you can.
We're going to wrap it up in a second, and we've had a really good opportunity to highlight the 4 performances that the 4 of you are participating in. But I know all 4 of you are also going to see other people's performances. And I would love to hear one thing you are hoping to see, or one thing maybe you saw yesterday that you'd like to recommend that isn't already represented on the stage.
I want to go see Whiz Bang.
Okay.
The other circus that's here. I'm excited to see the jugglers and the different acts in the small tent. I'm excited for that. And of course, Holly's show.
Holly?
I'm now psyched to see every single person at this table and their performances.
But what else? What else?
Well, I think there's some interesting things in the Mid-Al building going on. Juliette Renier's piece, I'm not sure if there are tickets left, looks amazing.
It's called I'm Not Sure If There Are Tickets Left.
Correct. No. What is it called?
Anyway, it's in the Mid-O building.
It is.
It's called Tesha, and they'll
Thank you.
look at Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh,
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Another
I've
woman
heard good
who
things about that. Yes.
who broke boundaries and barriers. Yeah.
I really want to go see Peekabooth. Cassie Harner, she does works with so many different performers, and so every time you go, it's going to be a different thing. She has I think 6 people that work with her, and you can go for very short periods of time. So that's a great thing. It's not ticketed. I don't think there's not a charge. You just go in and hope you're there at the right moment to see it. I think it is. Hold on, there's mouthing something.
There's a small token ticket price.
Okay.
Yes, you purchase a token to put into the performance
cool.
vending machine,
All right, cool.
It's a performance vending machine.
essentially.
Excellent.
Yeah, and anyway, I'm really excited to see it. And there's a lovely installation in the Mid-Au building. I think, is it My Heart? What is it called?
Her mark.
Her Mark.
Yeah.
It's really beautiful. They managed to turn this sort of sterile room into something that feels like it's your grandmother's or your great grandmother's house, and with audio, and it's really lovely.
And you can spend as much time as you want in there. I think that's a great.
And sometimes they have snacks.
Do they? I think it's great to stop in on your way to see other pieces like mine.
All right. And PJ?
I forgot that. I'm so glad you're up here, Josie. I forgot the name. It's written by Judah, who was also in the Kennedy's Theater.
The expiration date.
Expiration. Yeah, it sounds like a great show about identity and aging. I love seeing theater where it talks about people of a certain age, because you really don't see that often. people think theater is a young people's game, but I just found that so interesting. I want to see it.
Outstanding. We have to wrap it. Robin, you have one last
I
thing
just
to say.
want to tell them, talking about people of a certain age, don't ever refer to anybody over 70 as elderly. Okay.
Okay. Noted. Noted. Josie, was there something else you wanted to add?
I just wanted to be here and to help if you needed any like context for show names.
Okay. I think we're good. We're wrapping. So I want to thank PJ O'Neill, Holly Holsinger, Lucretia Stenson, and Robin Van Leer for joining us on the City Club stage at US Bank Plaza at Playhouse Square today. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking them. Our forum today is part of our City Club in the Community series presented in partnership with Bank of America. We are grateful for their partnership. There are more free forums coming up in August at the City Club, not just on Fridays. On Thursday, next Thursday, August 10th, Anthony Crazy Bone Henderson of Bone Thugs and Harmony will join DJ Chris Stiles of WOVU 95.9 FM for a conversation about the 50th anniversary of hip hop. That's happening at Morningstar Baptist Church on Cleveland's east side. You can find out more at cityclub.org. Next Friday, we'll be right back here with Dr. David Margolius, Director of Public Health for the City of Cleveland, to discuss equity in public health. Ideastream Public Media's Marlene Harris-Taylor will lead that conversation. You can find out more about these forums and others at cityclub.org. And before we get to the end, please join me in thanking our summer interns, Jordan Smith, Jane Jusko, and Zoe Ellenbogen, for their great work this summer. Thank you, interns. Thank you, panelists. Thank you, members and friends of the City Club. Our forum is now adjourned.